Hello, and thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Jennifer Fish, and my hope is that by listening to this presentation, you will become better informed about the obstacles that youth face once they leave the foster care system. Before we dive into the situations that foster youth face, we need to understand the goal of the foster care system. Since I'm currently living in North Carolina, I chose to base my presentation around the North Carolina foster care system. Don't worry though, most states' foster care systems hold the same goals that North Carolina does. The primary purpose of the foster care system is to provide a safe and temporary placement for children who are unsafe in their home environments. This is accomplished by implementing a plan of permanency for each child. In other words, the foster care system offers children in hopeless situations hope for a better future. Now that we understand the goals of the foster care system, we can take a look at the current situation that foster children are facing. Currently, there are 415,129 children in the foster care system that are waiting to be reunited with their families or find forever homes. 20% of the children in the foster care system are ages 16 years or older. Out of those 415,129 children in the foster care system, 22,392 children aged out of the foster care system this last year. Aging out of the foster care system occurs when a child turns 18 and the state considers them to be an adult. When this happens, the state no longer offers financial assistance to the foster parents or the child. Life in the foster care system is not an easy road to travel. More than 30% of youth in the foster care system incurred 8 or more placements with foster families or group homes while they were in the system. 65% of foster youth switched schools 7 or more times from elementary through high school. Foster children also face mental health difficulties. One of the more common ones that's found in foster youth is known as post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. Children in the foster care suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder at a higher rate than returning combat war veterans. A study of children in foster care revealed that post-traumatic stress disorder was diagnosed in 60% of sexually abused children and in 42% of the physically abused children. This study also found that in 18% of foster children who had not experienced either type of abuse had PTSD, possibly because of exposure to domestic or community violence. Given the adverse circumstances these foster care children face, transitioning from youth to adulthood can be very difficult. Most of the youth who age out of the foster care system lack income and assets that they need in order to be a successful adult. Today, the ability to achieve self-sufficiency is directly tied to success in the labor market. Far too many young people age out of the foster care system without a high school diploma or a GED and then fail to complete high school thereafter. Compared with their peers in the general population, young people who are aging or who have aged out of the foster care system are less likely to attend college and to graduate with a degree if they do attend college. At a time when a post-secondary credential is increasingly essential for securing gainful employment, young people aging out of the foster care system are at a significant disadvantage in the labor market. This in turn limits their ability to find and maintain housing that is both affordable and safe. Young people aging out of the foster care system are also at a disadvantage in the labor market because they lack preparation for employment. Although some foster youth receive workforce development services, in the form of job readiness training and may have opportunities to gain work experience through subsidized job placements. Others exit foster care system without knowing how to write a resume, fill out a job application, or even arrive to work on time. Moreover, workforce development programs that target foster youth have generally not been the subject of evaluations, although the few evaluations conducted to date suggest that workforce development programs do not produce promising results. Deficits in human and social capital are not the only factors that may limit the ability of young people aging out of the foster care system to secure adequate income and hence pay for suitable housing. Former foster youth are more likely than their non-foster care counterparts to describe their health as fair or poor, or to report a serious health problem. They also exhibit higher rates of mental health and substance use disorders than young adults in the general population. Just as inadequate income makes it difficult for young people aging out of the foster care system to pay rent or utility bills, inadequate assets can be a problem as well. Young people frequently age out of the foster care system with few, if any, assets. In fact, former foster youth are less likely than their peers to have accumulated savings in a bank account. Accordingly, many will not be able to come up with the money for the first and last month's rent or security deposit, both of which may be required to rent an apartment. Family can be an important resource for young people during the transition into adulthood. Parents often provide their adult children with substantial financial support, including assistance with rent payments. Young people aging out of the foster care system cannot count on family for such assistance. Parents can also offer in-kind assistance with housing by providing a place to live. A growing number of young adults live with one or both parents. In 2009, 53% of children ages 18 to 24 were living at home, compared with 47% in 1970. Several studies suggest that it's not uncommon for young people to move into the home of a parent after aging out. Because reunification and reconnection with the foster youth's biological family has not been a central focus of research, published studies vary in how they have approached this as an outcome, and as a result, there are variations in the percentages found to be living with family members after leaving the foster care system. Courtney and Barth found approximately 17% of youth who had spent at least 18 months in care were placed with family after leaving the foster care system, most of whom returned to their biological parents. McMillan and Tucker found that a higher percentage, 26%, were living with relatives at the time of discharge. In one of the larger studies, the only national one that's been done to this day, Cook found over half of the samples, 54%, returned to live with family or extended family at discharge. Cook also reported that 38% lived with family or extended family 2.5 to 4 years later. Frestinger also identified youth living with their families several years after leaving the foster care system, but found a much smaller percentage, only 8%. As you can see, the data collected did not examine the length of time that youth spent living with family after leaving the foster care system, and therefore only tells a small piece of the story. Some of these situations may be stable, while others are likely to be unstable based on the fact that the parents were deemed unfit by the state years earlier. Little research has been done to assess the problems that may arise from reunification or reconnection after youth transition out of care. Few studies, however, have noted indicators of potential difficulty. For example, in Barr's 1990 sample, only 16% of youth reported their view that their life would have been better or much better if they had stayed in their birth family, compared to 69% who felt their life would have been much worse if they had not entered the foster care system to begin with. Living in foster care makes it difficult for young people to develop lasting relationships with adults who will continue to provide support during the transition into adulthood. These relationships can be an important resource for young people faced with the challenge of finding suitable housing or a place of employment. Without these relationships, young people, particularly former foster youth who experienced several placements or lived in group homes, the majority of their time spent in the foster care system, must navigate the housing and employment search process, negotiate relationships with landlords, or choose roommates all on their own. Typically, youth rely on the input from their parents or a close mentor in their lives during their time of transitioning. Foster youth often lack a community around them giving them advice. Gaining the skills for independent living can be a difficult task that requires trial and error. Think back to when you were going through the transition from youth into adulthood. Although some of our parents may have prepared us by having us help with grocery shopping or planning, prepping, and cooking a meal, other individuals aren't given these lessons. Youth in foster care are often not exposed to the type of informal life skills learning experiences that families typically provide. Similarly, youth in foster care often have little opportunity to practice basic daily living tasks, such as cooking, budgeting, or shopping, and develop the confidence that results from successful performance. The limited exposure to independent living may be especially the case for foster youth who experience several placement changes or who are placed in group home care, as this frequently happens with older youth. Consequently, it is the child welfare system's responsibility to provide services that prepare youth for the transition from youth to adulthood. Now I know what you must be thinking to yourself. Well, isn't there programs that assist foster youth after they turn 18 and are no longer considered children by the state? The answer to that question is yes, there are. However, each program has its flaws. Currently, there are 65 federally funded programs that are created to assist foster youth in the transition to adulthood. 65 programs sounds like a pretty reasonable number, but think back to the number of youth that transition out of the foster care system each year. That was 22,392 youth. To put this into perspective, each program serves roughly 345 former foster youth. Two of those programs are the John H. Chaffee Foster Care Independence Program. This program offers assistance to help current and former foster youth achieve self-sufficiency. Grants are offered to states and tribes who submit a plan to assist youth in a wide variety of areas designed to support a successful transition to adulthood. Activities in program include, but are not limited to, help with education, employment, financial management, housing, emotional support, and assured connections to caring adults for older youth in foster care. The program is intended to serve youth who are likely to remain in foster care until age 18, youth who, after attaining 16 years of age, have left foster care or kinship, guardianship, or adoption. The young adults ages 18 to 21 whom have aged out of the foster care system. One of the other federally funded programs is the Educational and Training Vouchers Program, also referred to as ETV, for youths aging out of the foster care. ETV provides resources specifically to meet the education and training needs of youth aging out of the foster care. In addition to the existing authorization of $140 million for the CFCIP program, the law authorizes $60 million for payments to states and tribes for post-secondary educational and training vouchers for youth likely to experience difficulty as they transition to adulthood after the age of 18. This program makes available vouchers for up to $5,000 per year per youth for post-secondary education and training for eligible youth. As the number of children needing services rises, the resources offered to foster care children are becoming limited. In addition to the limited resources that transitioning youth are offered, the programs that are offered are often difficult for youth to navigate through by themselves. Furthermore, most of the programs that are offered fail to cater to the certain struggles that transitioning youth are faced with, such as mental and emotional health, workforce employment, and housing needs. Now that we have seen the resources offered to foster youth that are transitioning out of the system, we can take a look at the outcomes that occur once these youth transition out of the foster care. Despite the measures being taken, 1/5 of children who grew up in the foster system are doing well in certain areas of their lives. The majority of children who have transitioned out of the foster care system face significant challenges and obstacles. This means that the additional 4/5 of children in the foster system are struggling to be successful. Although 1/5 of the children who grew up in the system are faring well, a drastic change needs to occur in order to prepare foster youth for the transition into adulthood. In order to change the outlook of a foster youth transition into adulthood, some changes need to occur in the current foster care system. One of the changes that needs to occur is to limit the amount of placements a foster care child undergoes when they are in the system. Research has shown that children who experience multiple placements while in the system are at a higher risk of developing internalizing and externalizing behaviors compared to children that are provided with a permanent placement. In their study, Curtin, Beckham, and Ogilvie found that foster parents who had specialized training were more likely to have success with children placed in their homes. Therefore, in order to successfully limit the number of placements a child undergoes, the North Carolina Department of Social Services should promote stable, permanent connections to foster parents by offering parents training on how to make a healthy emotional connection with their foster child. The government should also offer public assistance such as housing, grocery, and clothing stipend after the child ages out of the foster care system by raising federal taxes. According to Fields, approximately 55% of young males and 46% of young women between the ages of 18 and 24 are living at home with at least one biological family member. Studies also suggest that parents on average provide their young adult children with financial help, totaling around $38,000 between the ages of 18 and 34. The above statistics refers to youth who did not grow up in the foster care system. While young adults may have their parents' support until the age of 34, foster youth do not have the luxury of having parents to financially provide for them. Although taxpayers may object to providing additional funding to foster youth who have transitioned into adulthood at first, the program can be set up to ensure that the young adults receiving additional assistance are taking the proper steps to become self-sufficient in the future. Investing money into the foster care system early on proves to also benefit the outcome foster care youth experience once they age out of the system. A study documenting the economic advantages of a privately funded foster care program that provided longer-term, more intensive and expensive services compared to public programs concluded that additional funds provided to state programs are well worth the social investment. According to the same study, about 100,000 new adolescents ages 12 to 17 enter foster care each year. If all of these adolescents were to receive enhanced foster care services, the long-term saving for a single cohort would be about $6.3 billion. Another change that needs to occur on a state level is extending the foster care beyond age 18. Many states have already passed legislation stating that they have extended the age of foster care until age 21. In order to see the impact of extending the age requirements, the Midwest evaluation of the adult functioning of former foster youth compared the outcomes of youth who had aged out of the foster system at age 18 to foster youth who were still receiving care after their 18th birthday. According to their data, they concluded that youth who remained in the state's care well after their 18th birthday were more likely to attend college, have access to stable housing, displayed less involvement in criminal behaviors, in addition to having access to health and mental services.